Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Rollercoaster Love and Kerry McAvoy, PhD, and we're here in Mexico going live with you to talk about narcissistic abuse. So what kinds of thoughts have you been having as you've been here and thinking about your life, the abuse, how you're healing, how you've been, any kind of triggers or revelations?
For myself, yeah. First, it's been so lovely being here with you. It's kind of creating new memories. The narcissist that I had married, I was with for 14 years, and we went on many vacations, much like this. And there's a lot of little memories and little, spending the day at the beach, spending the day on a yacht, and just having these memories where there was a lot of subtle abuse happening, triggering a lot of different types of abuse that maybe nobody around would ever notice, but little devaluation, little bit of insults, a little bit of, cuts to my diet and things I'm eating, and am I sure I want to wear that? And lots of little comments kind of triggering, and it's just kind of nice to create new memories, but also honor that was abuse, and I was really confused and not even identifying it and knowing what that was. So yeah, definitely some triggers coming up there.
Yeah, for me, it's where we are staying in the same city where I lived. And it's, for me, it's been, memory lane in some ways, but also creating new memories on top of these old memories. And that's the hard part is, I know for a lot of victims, we can get caught up in what happened in the past and feel like we can't move on. But one of the things we need to remember is to live in the now and let the new moment kind of create a new memory over top of the old memory, so that those old memories become less significant, less vivid, less powerful. So that's what I've been doing with Ro. I've been creating new memories with Ro, taking some of the places we've gone to have been my favorite places, places that I went to with my ex, but I've been reclaiming them. That's how I see it. I see it as reclaiming these places. So
reclaiming, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
And creating new memories. And Kerry will sometimes pick out parts of her book. If you haven't read her book yet, you can pick it up on the link in my bio. Under the very top. You can also go over to Kerry McAvoy, PhD, who is I'm going live with right now. So as we're live, we're simultaneously live at the same time on our different channels. So if you go to Kerry McAvoy, PhD, you can go follow her. You can grab her book there. Or if you just want to stick around here, you can go to the link in my bio under my favorite books. It's the very top one. But there were many moments where you picked out in the book, this is where this happened. This is where this happened. And I had read the book twice, actually, listened to it and read it. And it was very, captivating. But being in those spots in the actual book and reading your story and then seeing the spots and you pointing them out, it's a bit of an honor for me to be able to change some of those memories for you and help you reclaim that.
Exactly. In fact, they took her to, if you remember, there's a shop where there's chocolate. We went in and had hot chocolate. I didn't take her into the actual store, but I took her into the branch where I often went alone after I had therapy. Her and I said, I didn't tell you that part. I would often go after therapy and sit and have a cup of hot cocoa, kind of reflecting on my life. So it's been wonderful to sort of, you and I do this again in a different way. Yeah, and in a healing, in a good moment when I'm in a different place, and that feels really, really wonderful. Really wonderful.
I like that. And I'm wondering too, because just moments before we went into that chocolate shop, there were a few men just kind of like catcalling us. I wonder if that was a trigger, if that was a connection there.
Yeah, it was.
It
was because they were using inappropriate language that was very you know how that goes. And for me it was these days I find myself reactive. I get angry. I don't know how you feel when that happens, if you like it or not like it, but
it just rolls off my back. I kind of was like, you tell him, Kerry, you tell him.
I eventually flipped them off. So I got really pissy, but which wasn't smart because they weren't one person. It was multiple people.
Yeah, a couple of them for sure.
But on the other hand, I know where I'm at, and I know I have a lot more power here probably than they do when it comes to the law. So. But yeah, it's been interesting being here and doing this and reclaiming that. And again, let me introduce each other so you guys know who I am. Of course, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a psychologist with over 20 years of practice, clinical practice. These days, I am primarily a content creator about narcissistic abuse. I also wrote the book Love You More, The Harrowing Tales of Lies, Sex Addiction, and Double Cross. I have a podcast, YouTube, but I'm with Ro of Rollercoaster of Love. So if you'd like to follow her, please check out Rollercoaster of Love. She's on TikTok, Instagram, as well as YouTube, has an amazing platform. She does coaching. These days, I don't do counseling anymore, but Ro does one-on-one coaching. And she's fantastic. She particularly helps you re-enter the world dating again when you're trying to rebuild your confidence. But she also, I think you're very good at exit plans as well. I don't know if you I don't know if you market yourself that way, but I also think she's very good at identifying when there's something toxic and when you need to be able to get out and to think about strategically how to leave. Because that's so critical, guys. There's, I put up a video today, there is not one way to leave. There is going to be your way to leave, and you need to do it as safe as you can. And there's no wrong way. I know for me, I'd be curious to hear from you, Ro. For me, leaving felt like ultimate betrayal. Not only was I betraying myself and my values, I made a commitment, I was married to this person, but also it felt like I was being sneaky and doing things that he would disapprove of behind his back, and I felt like I was really outside my comfort zone, that I was being unethical. So, but I had to think about the fact that this was a person who wasn't protecting me, so that left it up to me. But I also knew that if I didn't, I was going to die. I mean, I could feel myself dying in the relationship, literally dying in the relationship. So what about you? How did it feel for you to strategically plan to exit?
It's a little different for me. So the danger wasn't so much in health reasons and safety. It was more, I was very weak by the end of that relationship and needed support to strengthen and to motivate myself because of really severe financial abuse and being isolated from any types of support. Also, there was a lot of premeditated smear campaign happening in my marriage where there was a lot of talk and a lot of lies and convincing other people in my life that I was the crazy one, that I needed help. He actually said to me that, you have mental problems, so maybe you should go see a therapist. And it was in fact the therapist who helped me leave and create that plan. So really what I like to do is focus a lot on the planning and taking the time to save the money, to gather your supports and reclaim your confidence back. Because I really had low confidence. I was depressed, very anxious near the end of it, on medication, and didn't really have the power to go and feel that I was worth going. Like I needed to be empowered again. That's kind of what I help you with. Anyone who coaches with me who was looking for an exit strategy, the biggest thing is the planning, and to understand that planning is part of it. Planning your finances, planning your confidence, taking the time to make a plan. That's why I always say make a plan to leave. But there will be a click, there will be a shift where one day you will just know that it's time. You don't know how you'll get it done, but you have 100% intention and zero mechanics. The mechanics doesn't matter. You just know you're going to leave. I can help you make that plan.
It is wild. That happened for me too. I sat in a spot for a long time thinking, I should leave. No, I can't leave. He's changing. No, he's not changing. I should leave. No, I can't leave. I sat in a long time in this spot and agonized. It would be the last thing I would think of at night as I was falling asleep, and it was the first thing I was thinking of as I woke up. And then all day it would turn in my head this question. I couldn't solve it. And suddenly I even remember the day, I remember the time, I even remember how the sun was that day, how it was, where we were at, what I was doing. It literally flipped.
It's like a light switch turns on and you can see everything.
Yeah.
I call that clarity.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a great word. I love that. Yeah. I had an incredible. I had some thoughts that went along with it. I asked myself in that moment, he was abusing me again, not physically, emotionally, being the most emotionally abusing I had ever had him be before. And I thought to myself, I looked at him almost like a specimen, like a bug under a microscope, and I said, would this be okay if someone else was treating someone I loved like this? And I said, no, it would not. And then I asked even a more important question, then why is it okay for me? And then in that moment, it was like, it's not. This is not okay. And it literally, like a domino started to, And then an opening came, and the minute the opening came, I was able to take the exit and walk through. For me, I had to be careful because there was a lot in play. I couldn't just walk out. I know a lot of you are in the same position. You just can't up and leave. You've got financial commitments, you have kids, you have maybe, you know that there's going to be implications with work. I know that. But suddenly there was a break. I could see that I could have an exit, a safe exit, or relatively, and I took it.
Yeah, the opportunity, you see it and you take it, right? But it's being strong enough to get to that place and for that light switch to go on first. First you need the clarity, then you need the confidence, and then you need the strength. And once you have the strength, you can get out. And another thing you touched on earlier was, okay, you don't know if they'll change, maybe they'll be better. One really important thing to remind yourself is to not tell them.
Yes.
You do not let them know. You don't let them know the plan. The plan is a secret plan. The plan is for you, not for them. Because what happens is two things. One of two things, or sometimes both. They could get very dangerous.
Yes.
This is an injury, obviously, to a narcissist who is leaving. You're leaving. Their grade A supply is now leaving. So they may harm you. And then the second thing is they are going to pretend to be a better person. They're going to get better. It's going to look really good.
Right.
And this is going to be a ploy to try to keep you to stay, and you may fall for it. And for me, it did work. It did work a couple times where there was crying, and there was promises, and there was apologies, fake apologies, and no changed behavior. And it bought me bought him 2 or 3 extra years with me. So be very careful when you're planning on that exit strategy. Make sure that it isn't silent, and that you don't lead them on to think that maybe you're leaving, because that's when all of the antics will start ramping up.
Yeah, and that was the hard part for me. I don't know how many of you are more like me, where I was kind of raised where privacy was seen as secrecy. So I wasn't really allowed to have much of a private life. I was seen as sneaking. If I was doing things on my own, I was doing innocent things. But anything that I was sort of off by myself was seen as potentially, because I came from a dysfunctional home. See, I'm in the minority. If you guys have watched my content, you know that the majority of victims are healthy people. They're 63% of you are amazing, skyrocket, incredible people, but 37% come from dysfunctional homes or have a lot of trauma. I fit in the 37%. And because of my traumatic background, I had been taught you don't keep secrets. Secrets are a betrayal to the family. Well, for me to create an exit plan felt like keeping a secret. And you may have to stash income. You may have to put a little bit of seed money aside and make another strategy of what kind of work you're going to do, or set up a new housing situation, or see an attorney for a consultation appointment so you know your rights. By the way, I feel that's critical. You need to know your legal rights, because don't trust their perspective of legal rights. Most often they're wrong. They use it as a way to control, manipulate, and deceive you. And how many of them actually are attorneys? They're not attorneys. So I would really recommend that you see an attorney, even if you don't plan to pursue a divorce right away. At least know your rights, but make sure that you take efforts to know, develop a really wise plan. A very wise plan.
And ask the right questions. By the way, you can get a 30-minute consult from any attorney for free. So this is something that I did, part of my exit strategy, part of my journey, is I saw 3 or 4 before I actually started coming up with a plan. And this was 1 year before I actually left. So this is how long, just to give you perspective, how long it can take for you to plan to leave. But always know that that light at the end of the tunnel is there. That once you get that light switch and you get that moment of clarity, you know that you will naturally be in action, and one day you will be sipping champagne on the other side where freedom is.
Yeah, I know some of you guys are sharing how intense the ambient abuse, that's what you're describing. So ambient abuse is when they control our environment, they control our access to things, and they actually even control our access to food, sleep, rest, solitude, those types of things. And some of you are being timed, so they know how long you're in the car or how long you're gone. Some of you are probably having to turn in receipts to show how much money you're spending and where. I know I first had to do it in my first marriage. My husband wasn't very healthy in the beginning of it, but he later stopped. But yeah, I have been under those kinds of situations. And you're running exhausted because they're keeping you up super late at night, or they're weaponizing all sorts of stuff. They weaponize all sorts of stuff. So I understand that this is why we're saying be strategic. You have to be really strategic, very strategic. It is intense, and it is, when you're leaving, and you said it as a wound. It's called a narcissistic wound. It's an injury to their sense of self, to their self-esteem, their pride. And you know what happens whenever their pride's threatened? It is, rage goes way up.
Yeah, that's the result of that injury, that
rage.
Wound.
Right. So for me, this is what I did. There's 7 different types of exits, by the way. And what I did was I waited for the discard. I helped set up the discard.
Okay, can you tell me more about that? Because that sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so what I did is I knew he would get bored, and I started to emotionally detach and I didn't give him any admiration, or I wasn't pouring love out on him. I was emotionally backing up and backing away, and then I would stop giving him compliment. Everything I knew that sort of held him up, I stopped doing. I started to fade back, fade out. Gray rock is a great way. Reduce your contact, be disinterested. Do all these things that you know are hurtful to a relationship, subtly hurtful, because you should be invested, you should be interested, you should want to listen to what they're sharing, you should listen when they tell you a joke and think it's funny. But I started backing away. It's called emotional bids. John Gottman talks about that in his research, is that every one of us makes an emotional bid. Today I asked, hey, Ro, do you want to go live? Absolutely. When I asked her, that was an emotional bid. She could say yes, she could pretend she didn't hear me, or she could tell me no. A good relationship needs to be built on 80% of positive emotional bid responses. 80% to maintain a good relationship. So if you start to stop being interested, ignoring, declining politely, just being disinterested, you're automatically creating a detachment within yourself, but you're also creating sort of a subtle separation between you and your partner. And that, if they're narcissistic, will cause them to become bored, and they're more likely to start looking for new supply. If they haven't already found it, they'll begin to look. So I knew he would get bored.
Yeah, that's basically them saying, well, what value do I have now from this woman, really?
Yeah.
Right? If she's not giving me what I need, I'll go get it somewhere else. And that is a really good way to slowly get them to discard you.
Yeah, and that is when you know that you have someone that's going to react potentially dangerously. And I was with a partner who had a history of violence, of domestic violence with other partners, so I didn't want to be attacked. So that's the way that I was managing my risk.
Mm-hmm. It's subtle and it's slow.
Exactly. Now, I know many of you have questions, so I'm going to again introduce us for those who are just joining us, and then tell you how to ask us questions that maybe you guys have thoughts you have, or things you don't know, or maybe there's some topic we haven't talked about. But this is Ro of Rollercoaster of Love.
Hello.
And she's really great at one-on-one coaching, and she's also amazing content. If you want to be entertained and learn something about narcissistic abuse, please check out her account. I swear she's a queen of transitions. We're
helping Kerry do one today.
I'm gonna do a transition today on one. And then I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy. I'm a licensed psychologist with over 20 years of experience. These days I don't do counseling. I know a lot of people ask. I do have a one-on-one consultation for one time, where I can help give you direction of what to do next, or who to see, like Ro, or other plans that can help you kind of just assess your situation and figure out where you want to go. But I also primarily, at this point, I write, and I'm going to be releasing this fall a cognitive dissonance course, and I have a webinar coming up on August 18th. It's at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time with Dr. Kristen Milstead. If you have not heard of her, really, you need to go check her out. She wrote a book called Why Can't I Just Leave? Waking Up and Walking Out of a Pathological Love Relationship. And she, like myself, had a PhD, was a researcher in sociology, was a professor, and she ended up getting in a toxic relationship with a narcissistic sociopath, like I did myself. And she writes, I tell the story of what happens, so you can see how the abuse, the gaslighting, how the love bombing moves into disillusionment, to discard. You can see sort of the stages.
Like a movie.
Yeah, I wrote it like a story, like a thriller. Mm-hmm. But she wrote it from a research standpoint. She sort of synthesizes all the information about the narcissistic drama triangle. If you've seen my older video about the magician, the bully, and the savior, she talks extensively about that. She talks a lot about what cognitive dissonance looks like. She discusses exit plans, what ones are good and what ones are not. Highly recommend it. But we're going to do an interview with her, me and several other panelists, and I really hope that you can come and see it, because honestly, it's going to answer a lot of your questions about how to break a trauma bond, how to resolve cognitive dissonance, even to define it for you. I know we throw that term around a lot. So it's going to be an amazing. If the tickets are in a link in my bio, and Ro also.
Yes, anyone who's in this group chat who wants to come in, just go over to the link in my bio under upcoming events, right underneath my group coaching event, which, by the way, I do group coaching every month. And this is the first one that I'm going to be doing. I will be doing it every month. There's only one seat left. So if anybody wants to get on that, it's going to be a really great event where we're all going to be sharing, very much like a support group in a Zoom chat. This one is a webinar that's live. And if you want to get that link, it's right underneath that link.
It's going to be amazing. The space is limited. And the best part, guys, is the last 30 minutes, you get to ask your questions of Dr. Milstead. So you can hear an hour plus of content of us asking questions on your behalf, and then we're going to turn it over and take your questions towards her. So it's going to be an incredible night. And if you're really looking to understand more the inside of why you feel so confused and paralyzed and stuck, or even if you're out and why you can't let go, why you can't find closure, why you still feel kind of preoccupied with the person you've left, this is going to be a webinar super helpful in breaking that. So,
yay.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. So let me tell you how to ask us questions, because the comment button or interact button doesn't work right anymore. So put a thumbs up in front of your comment, a thumbs up in front of the comment, and that way we know that you're talking to us.
Thumbs up emoji.
Yep, exactly. We've both been watching our comments, but I know that you guys have been talking a lot to each other, which I love. I think that's awesome. But if you have specific questions for us, like, what do I do when, or how come this is happening, or should I hold any hope? Whatever your question is, put a thumbs up in front of it, and then we will address it for you today. And thank you so much for hanging out with us, and for following us and liking us and sharing this time, because we've been having a blast getting to know. We didn't know each other, by the way. We knew each other online. We've been talking for probably almost 6 months online.
Yeah.
But
through TikTok.
Exactly, through TikTok and through private chats. But when we met, I swear it was just like, I just felt like she's exactly what I thought. Exactly what I thought.
Oh, ditto, for sure.
So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and we're here in Mexico, so it's just a nice place to be meeting somebody in this circumstance. Really, we wouldn't have met had not been for narcissistic abuse. So it's kind of amazing that this brought us together. And there's a lot of things that, just for myself, practicing gratitude is one way to practice self-care, is having gratitude. And there's a lot of things that obviously in my marriage that I'm not grateful for, but there's many things I am.
Yeah.
And one of the things is being able to meet wonderful people, being able to spread this type of awareness and share what we do share with others who may be in situations that we were in for years.
Yeah.
And another thing is being able to spot red flags, to see toxicity in our friendships, in our family, in our work environments, and being able to see it and cut it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They want to know how to find you, Ro.
Oh,
can you
I am at Rollercoaster of Love on TikTok, _Rollercoaster of Love on Instagram, Rollercoaster of Love on YouTube.
Yeah. So run it together as one word, Rollercoaster of Love. That's how you find her. Somebody said that they just need help, and it's been 30 some years and they're feeling desperate. We get it. Yeah. She was in for quite a long time. 14 years. I was in for 2. I knew him for 3 years. In my opinion, 1 month is way too long.
Yeah.
Way too long.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the thing that's interesting that you're talking about where we are today, and I don't regret who I am today. I love who I've become. I wish it didn't take that to make me this person.
Right.
But who I've become, I'll tell you, way more confident. I found my I'm still finding my voice. I'm taking control of my life. I'm taking back my power. I don't regret all that. That part's fantastic, but I sure wish it hadn't cost me so much. I sure hadn't. Someone wanted to know how much the course is going to be. The online Cognitive Dissonance course is $79. It's probably going to be released later this fall. I've had a lot going on this summer. As some of you guys know, I lost my sister last month. It's just been a lot of yeah, the summer's been hard. I don't know how your summer is going, but the summer's been kind of unexpectedly hard. But I'm working on it. I'm getting close. I want to put out a companion workbook that stands alone. That part's going to have to be, that's coming next. I'm almost to the part to doing that. The tickets for the webinar is $25. If you can't make it, immediately the next day, the replay goes on sale for $30. So you'll save $5 if you buy the ticket for the webinar, even if you can't go, because anybody who buys a ticket gets automatic replay. So you'll save yourself some money if you buy the webinar, even if you can't go. So yeah, thank you guys for that comment. You guys have been amazing. It's one of the things I love about TikTok is just what a community is.
So someone here is asking, what's the very first sign of abuse? I believe I was in one for 3 years. Really good question. I'll give you my take on that. Some of the first signs is you are not feeling comfortable. That's like the biggest thing for me was I'm not comfortable sharing my good news, my bad news, being able to even just say that I bought a Starbucks coffee, not comfortable being me. Somebody who is healthy in a relationship is going to make you more of you, not less of you. You start losing who you are and start running from who you really are, getting further away from self. The closer you are to self, the healthier I think the relationship is because you're more comfortable being you. So I think that would be one of the first signs that I would look for.
I agree. Mine was I felt like I was making myself smaller. Like I had to let him have control over things that I normally would have taken care of. And if I did it, then I would have gotten criticized and told, why did I go ahead and do that alone? So I found myself becoming, like you said, less yourself, less me. It was less me. I think I started to feel I was hiding pieces of the relationship that I didn't want others to know, because if I told anybody what he said or did, they would look at me like, why are you staying? And I didn't have a good answer for why I was staying. I just knew that I loved him. And I figured, this is what I told myself, oh, all relationships are like this. This is what you just do to get along with somebody. I didn't realize that it was, I was losing control and I was being manipulated. I didn't realize that he was making me emotionally responsible for the relationship and emotionally responsible for his happiness, his feelings, his entertainment, for all of that. I didn't realize that. So that was, I agree, it's subtle. In the beginning, you know, because you're coming out of the love bombing phase, would you really think you've met your soulmate, your twin flame, your
best friend,
exactly,
all of the things
perfect
they say.
Match, exactly.
Yeah.
You think that you've met this person. So it starts to slip in. It's like little subtle things that start to slip in, like they don't call you as often and then suddenly they call you and then there's big long gaps again. Or they forget something that should have been important, they blow it off and then act like, why are you upset? Or you start to see these slips that tell you that something's wrong, because if someone really loved you, man, they're all about you all the time. Yeah. So it shouldn't be like that.
I come from Calgary, Alberta, which right now the Calgary Stampede is going on, and they have these variety shows where you're being hypnotized on the stage, but you're aware of it. You go on stage and they hypnotize you and they tell you to you know quack like a duck and things like that. Imagine somebody coming up to you and hypnotizing you without your knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? You're being completely controlled. Your mind is being controlled and you have no idea. When people ask you, why are you in this relationship? Well, I love them. I don't know. You're being hypnotized. Like, this is something that you're not even aware of.
Yeah.
This is something that you don't know. It's a hypnotic mind control is how you call it, right?
Yep.
So this is what's happening. This is a brainwashing that we're not aware of. These are the reasons why we stay.
In fact, they've actually been doing research on this. This is not just based on observation. We're not telling you, oh, I felt like he had me under his grasp and I was like no, this is based on research. They're looking at cult programming and finding a connection between what happens in narcissistic abusive relationships and what happens when cult leaders are able to pull in and solicit new members. It's the same techniques are being used in both situations. It includes things like excessive eye gazing. You think about it, we don't sit and stare at someone like nonstop. There's this excessive complimenting and mirroring you. Your body positions are being mirrored literally. Like they look at what you're doing and how you're sitting and they copy that. They then tell you things that you just say to say that they're like you too. So you're being parroted, which makes you feel like you met somebody who's the same as you. Yeah. So all of this creates rapid trust, fast rapport, and it starts to be hypnotic, actually hypnotic, where you're not thinking as clearly, your judgment starts to be impaired as a result of that, and you're more suggestible. Isn't that wild? They're actually making you more suggestible. So that's one of the problems, even in the relationship, that whenever they start to feel you slipping, they pull you back in as a way to, through these methods, as a way to like kind of re-indoctrinate you so that you don't leave.
Yeah, and the breadcrumbing too.
Yeah.
Having these little, like, first you get the loaf of bread at the beginning. They give you the whole world. They give you everything you ever wanted all the time. And then it turns into a slice of bread, and then half a slice. Next thing you know, you're getting breadcrumbs. But the thing with that is, right when they might feel like you're slipping from them or starting to become your own again, they'll give you that little breadcrumb, and you're so hungry for it, you think it's a whole loaf. And that's the way they keep you in. They kind of like draw you in that way, and that's part of all of that too. So never blame yourself for staying for as long as you did, because that's part of their plan.
Right. So someone says, how do you get out of the spell? Yeah, that's the hard
call.
Yeah, I know, it's really, that's why support is so important. Yeah. I had to get over my shame of what was being said and the things that I was believing and trusting. I had to get past that, because I would feel like, I don't dare say this, I feel so stupid. They're going to think I'm stupid and judge me. Now, there are people that will do that. That's true. Yeah. So you can't tell everyone and anyone. You have to know who in your world is really safe and who's really not safe, which I have a private community, a premium private community that you can join. It's called Toxic Free Relationship Club. Ro, you have one, I believe, on Facebook?
Yeah, I do have a Facebook support group that if you go to the link in my bio under support, you can find it under Facebook support group, and that is a community that anyone can share, and you can meet people there. Right, so it helps to meet other people who understand, who are kind, aren't going to judge you, be hurtful. So that's one thing that helped. I think the other thing that helped is I got therapy. Did you get into therapy? I have therapy. Yeah, yes. I jumped into therapy, and that I honestly, I wasn't honest with her about everything either. Were you honest about everything? Oh, I was. Oh, I was, but also, here's the thing: the therapist that I still continue to see saw us both. So she knew him. She knew him, and she also helped me with an exit strategy. So I have a very close, it took about 1.5 years for me to even have her share one part about her life, which was very similar to mine. And that's something that is the biggest difference between therapy and coaching, if anyone's wondering, is coaching, I will give you my life. You know everything. You will be able to draw from my experience so you don't feel alone. In therapy, you're getting a different type of help. You're getting a different type of support that draws maybe into your childhood, you know, some of your history, what led you there, the why. I get you into the what. But my therapist didn't share with me her life, because that's not what they do. Yeah, therapists don't tend to do that, right? Somebody commented about how many not good therapists there are in their area. That is true. I want to warn you that narcissistic abuse is a new arena that has not been well studied or well understood in the realm of psychology and social work. It is now starting to happen. So I think the people who are coming out of graduate school now are going to be a little better informed. But here's some things that you can look for to tell you if this therapist is somebody that you can feel like you can trust or look to for support. I would ask some questions. Remember, you're not only being interviewed, but you're interviewing them as well. Yes. So ask if they're trauma-informed. That's one word to use, trauma-informed. Ask what they know about betrayal trauma, and then you feel free to ask what they know of narcissistic abuse. If they are unaware of any of that, and they think that people who get into... Pay attention to the reaction to this question, too. Exactly. If they end up thinking that people who are in bad relationships are codependent or just people-pleasing people, that is somebody who's outdated and is not up on the current information and the current research. So please ask those types of questions to help you. You're going to have to vet them. They're not all the same. Not all therapists are created equal. Yeah, no, just because they have that credential and they have that does not mean that they're there for you. They might just be there for the type of work they may not be they're ill-informed when it comes to this type of abuse. Yeah, because back when I was in graduate school, we never discussed this. The idea was that we looked at the individual. We didn't look at the individual in the context of relationship. We didn't even consider the fact that the relationship might be making the person ill. We thought the person's past or history or their decisions were making them ill. So this is a real shift in the way that we're seeing things. So that's why I'm urging you to make sure you have someone
someone who's now more up to date. There's Sandra Brown's Institute is training clinicians. I know Dr. Ramani's been doing a whole lot in training clinicians. I just bought some training from Dr. Ramani. So I know that there are those who are putting out content for clinicians specifically to get us trained, trauma trained, narcissistic abusively trained, but please make sure you ask, because they're not all created equal.
Someone's asking how to find you, Kerry. Her name on TikTok is Kerry McAvoy, PhD. And where else can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram. I also have a podcast called Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. What I do is I take the best parts of these so it feels like I'm just talking and string it together for about 25 to 30 minutes. So you can find that on Spotify, Apple, wherever you look for it. I also have a YouTube channel where I am putting out all sorts of content. The podcast is there, these lives go live there. Also, I have other content that's independent from this. So yes, Kerry McAvoy, PhD, all one word is how you can find me.
Longer form content you'll find on YouTube is really, really helpful, because all of the content we put out on TikTok, they're short form, and so if you want longer videos,
right,
you can find us both on YouTube.
Exactly. Someone was asked about how she feels like she can't tell if she's coming or going. She feels like she's so confused. That is real, by the way.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing is the long-term effects of cognitive dissonance. We're not meant, our body and minds and our emotions were not meant to be in a state of confusion like this. It causes high level of stress, and it has detrimental effects to our neurology. So you're actually experiencing neurological decline. I hate to tell you. Yeah, your hippocampus is shrinking and your amygdala is swelling. That's why you feel like you aren't yourself and you're not making clear decisions. It's real. It's real. The good news is the brain is very resilient, and when you get out, and this is another reason why no contact is so important, you need to not be left in a jumpy state wondering when you're going to bump into this person again, either on social media or in person. But once you're out and you're healing and you're back into a calm environment and doing things that are really helpful, like meditation and therapy and journaling and support, all of that helps you begin to heal and reclaim your functioning again.
Thank you for the good news, because that's we need to hear that there's hope,
there is hope,
and hope for me stands for hold on, pain ends. Not hope that it's going to get better, not hope that he's going to change or she's going to be better. It's not that type of hope. It's hope that we just have to hold on and know that there is that light at the end of the tunnel. Hold on, pain ends.
I love that. That's beautiful. And you remember, you're seeing someone who was in it for 3 years, and mine was extremely intense. And I was not functioning well. I stopped writing. I sometimes could barely speak and string words together that made sense. I was collapsing. I was actually passing out and collapsing. You were in it 14 years, and look at us. I mean, we don't look like we're suffering from cognitive decline at this point.
Right.
So yeah, we definitely are. Where we're at today shows you that you can come back from this, and it's really possible. Someone wants to know, what's the difference between narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder? That's a great question. They're both under what's classified a cluster B in the personality disorders of the DSM-5, but they're also called, under the alternative model, antagonistic, because they're the opposite of agreeable. They're antagonistic. The differences between the two: a narcissist is very preoccupied with self, egocentric, and constricted. So you're going to find there's not a lot of emotional display unless it's to manipulate and to mimic. Like when they're caught, they'll do a panic attack and break down and cry and those types of things. But normally they're pretty in control because they're trying to control the environment and the world and you in order for them to get what they need in the form of supply. Think they're special, very entitled. They'll do anything they can to be deceitful. They're very driven by jealousy, and they don't have empathy. That's a narcissist. A borderline personality disorder is in the same group and sometimes can look narcissistically, just like a narcissist can sometimes look like a borderline. But a borderline is marked by emotional dysregulation. They are more fear-driven. They're worried about either you're going to take over and they'll lose themselves, be engulfed by you, or they're going to be abandoned, you're going to reject them, and they're fearful they're going to lose again. So they vacillate between wild periods of extreme dark depression as well as incredible rage and then they have periods where they're sort of regulated and seem to be on an even keel. I heard it defined this way, and I thought it was fantastic. They're stably unstable.
I love that.
Yeah, so they're
stable.
the instability is stable, but they're unstable. They have these big swings. Think of it, they move in and out of chaos. They have a kind of chaotic relationship. They feel chaotic, they look chaotic, and then they collect themselves together and seem to be doing better, and they move into another period of chaos. So that's the difference between each. But these states, even the antisocial personality disorder, which is another one of the cluster Bs, they do sometimes fluidly move into each other. So you can have someone that looks narcissistic and then behaves like a borderline and then gets ruthless and cruel like an antisocial personality disorder. Or likewise, all of them can kind of move in and out, because Sam Vankman thinks that maybe it's one thing that has different manifestations. The jury's out. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's why there's this fluidity between states. Great question.
And you asked earlier too, or you mentioned earlier in some of your content about the conscience. Like, is that the biggest difference really, is kind of the result of some of their manipulation and their acting out? Is that with NPD that there really isn't a conscience, like there's no real care of what they're doing and how they're harming others, whereas maybe BPD, I've seen some content creators talk about the deep remorse and guilt that they feel afterwards. Yeah,
I would say that borderlines do have a sense of regret. They lose it in the moment. When they're losing it, they don't have regret because they feel like they're justified and it feels that bad. Their pain level, I think, if we could have a sensor of what it would be like on the inside of them, you know how we all have different experiences of levels of pain. I think borderline personality disorders are emotionally very sensitive people, and their pain register goes way high with not a lot of stress. And so when things that might not throw you or me happen, for them it's catastrophic, lays them out. And because of that, then they do very impulsive things that are very damaging.
Right.
Whereas narcissists, they tend to be disengaged from their emotions, because if you were to peel back the center of a narcissist, you would find that it had big shame issues. They're very afraid if you really knew who they were, so they never let you know who they are. You always see the image. If you really knew who they were, that it would be this shriveled up, broken, destroyed thing inside them. So you're never allowed. They don't even look at it themselves. So they're doing all this management of image in order to protect themselves from that pain. So as a result, they've deadened themselves to feelings, except for when it benefits them for show. Mine could cry, I swear. He had panic attacks where his body was literally drenched in sweating, and then he would like sob, and it looked really authentic. Now that I'm looking back, I'm thinking,
what a show.
Yeah, why? I mean, he went out and did the same thing again that night, so why did it matter? I think it was all just, it played well. It really played well. So,
and how did you feel when you saw that?
Oh, I was moved, you know. To me, it's like, oh, he has a heart. Look at that. One of the things, I had two different thoughts that I thought to kind of leave you guys with on this thought. One is they lack a conscience. Now, what happened to the conscience? Was it ever there? Some of them, I don't think it was ever there. I think they were born that way and they just didn't have a conscience. So think about it. If you had the ability to not ever feel bad about anything you ever did and never was filled with remorse, regret, or, you know, what would you do? You would do whatever it took to do whatever you needed to do to get what you wanted, right? You would do anything, which starts to explain why they do what they do, because they don't have a conscience. I just heard Gregory Lester, Dr. Lester, who was part of the DSM-5 Committee on Personality Disorders, say that he considers all cluster B people to be incomplete people. In other words, when we're born, we have personality traits that help us cope with life, so that we know how to show up with friends, and we know how to deal with a stressful situation.
In different scenarios.
Exactly. We have different tools we use in different situations. He says they don't have that. They use the same response, the same tool, trait, he calls them traits, every situation. It's this, and so he used this example. I thought it was great. If you're watching a horror movie and Jaws theme song starts up, it's appropriate. It's a scary movie. That's what you want to hear, a scary song. But if you showed up at a wedding and started playing the Jaws theme song, it would be totally inappropriate.
Doesn't work.
But that's what narcissists do. They use the same scenario over and over and over, and then are surprised, like most of the time, it doesn't work. But they're incomplete.
Yeah. Incomplete people. Yeah, interesting concept, isn't it? It is,
So that comes back to, if it's not that they have something wrong like a cold or the flu or depression or anxiety. These things are conditions. So when you have those things happen. When you are depressed, you're like, oh, I'm not myself. What's wrong with me? Or if you're anxious, you're like, oh, I don't like feeling anxious. I don't want to be anxious again. These are conditions that happens to you. Personality disorders are not a condition. It's who they are. This is the way they are all the time, everywhere, and they don't even know it's a problem. Yeah. But they leave this wake of chaos and destruction around them because of the way that they're handling everything the same way that doesn't work. And then that's why they say to you, well, I don't have the problem.
It's not me.
It's not me. You're the one that's always upset, so I think you're the problem. Well, what they don't see is the fact that their way of being is problematic. They're doing chaos and drama and destruction. So that's why they always like project and blame, is because in their minds,
they're unfazed.
They're unfazed.
They're walking around leaving this chaos with everyone around them, and everyone around them is affected.
Right.
But they are not affected. So because they're not affected, they don't believe that they're the cause of this. Right? They believe that you're the cause because you're the one who's affected.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And this is coming out of the top thinkers in personality disorders in the United States are saying this, that these are incomplete. That's why you can't fix them. You can go treat a cold. You can treat anxiety. You can go get medication for depression. You can't give something that's deficient. I can't say to a person who's missing an arm, oh, I'm going to give you a new human arm, just like the one you had before. I can put a prosthetic or prosthesis on you, but it isn't your arm. I can't fill in the hole you have.
Right.
I can teach you ways around what's lost, but I can't teach you how to get what you don't have. So you can't fix narcissists.
They cope.
They have to learn new coping skills. Now, can some of them do that? Yeah, some of them have enough resources inside, they're high enough. See, that's the other thing. Narcissists aren't all cut from the same cloth. Just like, have you guys seen Westworld? I love sci-fi. So Westworld, they have these robots, and they have this grid. So like, how intelligent is she or he? How intuitive is he or she? How strong is he or she? And then they like vary these like on a bar, like almost like turning up the volume and turning it down. They measure that if something's missing on somebody, you can't just turn it up. It's gone. It's not there. But you can give them new ways to kind of handle the fact that it's missing. But some narcissists have a little more self-reflection than those who don't have any. So they vary on like impulse control, ability to be self-directed, the ability to be insightful, and show good judgment. They vary in that. Some of them have some of them have little, some of them have nearly none. But those who are have a little on the higher functioning end, yeah, they can learn better workarounds, and that's why you then see what we know as self-aware narcissists. That's people who have a little more of some of those qualities that a lot of them are missing, so they can then use it to get a little bit better.
Someone's asking, can we please somehow get them the message? Like you want to help them.
Yeah.
It feels insanity not to be able to help them.
Yeah, it is hard. In fact, there's somebody who reached out on me on Instagram who has a group who's trying to promote healthy narcissism and healthy cluster B, which I find kind of an oxymoron. I'm really curious. I'm going to actually do a FaceTime with them and talk to them because I'm fascinated what they're thinking. Because part of the disorder, if you look at the criteria in the DSM-5, it is the problems they create that help define them. So how then do you have the disorder if you don't have the criteria? I don't get how that works. So I'm curious to hear what they're thinking. But I know somebody wants to know, can you ever not be a narcissist if you have enough therapy? I think you can get less narcissistic, but I don't think you're ever not a narcissist.
Well, it's just like going back to that limb. You can't pop it back in, right? You'll always be without it, and you can always, you can have prosthetics and you can have ways to cope around not having that arm, but that arm is gone. Right. So and two self-aware narcissists who are friends of ours that are content creators on TikTok are both, admittedly narcissists for life. And this is something that they talk about. They cope through it and they have therapy and they help others heal from it and give perspective. But this is something that they have.
Oh, and sometimes they're a little rougher on the edges and they know that. And then they, what's cool is they even share how they're trying to learn and be better, and we see that. But they don't always, nobody hits every note perfectly. That's just not possible. But because we're all on the continuum, guys. None of us are not on the narcissistic scale. None of us are not on the, we're all somewhere on it.
Yeah, it's all on a spectrum.
Yeah, so hopefully we're on the healthier end, we're better on it, but everybody falls somewhere. But hopefully they're moving a little higher up on some of it than they were before. I know that they are, because I know what their life was like before, and they're not living that way anymore. Not at all. So yeah, that makes the difference. By the way, while we're speaking of that, and I so wish you could come, we're doing a meetup, a bunch of us. They're going to be in Durham, North Carolina. In fact, I just saw Bree of Abuse is going to be there. Lee Hammock with Mental Healness. Ben Taylor, Raw Motivations, Lisa Sony, Stronger Than Before, and myself will be in Durham, North Carolina at, it's Honeysuckle at Lakewood. And if you want to learn more about it, I actually have, you can't find it in TikTok. I don't have a link in TikTok, but I have a link over on my podcast and on YouTube where I'm advertising it. Sorry, I need to put the link up in more places, but I will try to figure out a way to do that.
It'll be up soon.
Yeah. It's going to be this week from tomorrow. We're going to be there a week from tomorrow. Hang out with you from 3 to 6. Shake your hand. I'm going to bring autographed books. We'll talk to you. You know, yeah. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. I really can't wait.
Yeah, Mental Healness and Raw Motivations.
Yep, and Lisa Sony, Stronger Than Before, and Abuse is Abuse. Bree will be there as well, and myself. We have about 10 more minutes. Other questions for us today?
Yeah, and just a reminder, the thumbs up emoji alerts us that the question is for us. So if you pop that in the chat, I know it's been a minute since we've said it. So if you want to address a question to us or you want to address a comment to us, put a thumbs up emoji in front of your comment, and then we can address it for you.
Right. And this for my live is going to go, it's going to go over on YouTube. So if you missed this, you can catch it again, and the whole piece of it over on YouTube. It will be a total replay. And thank you for following. Make sure you follow both of us. Check out Rollercoaster of Love's content as well as mine. I'm Kerry McAvoy, PhD. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love the fact that we're able to do this together and take these questions together. This has been amazing, amazing. Is a narcissist creator just covering for time being? I don't think so. I think that's I know that people get kind of edgy with these types of questions. I appreciate the fact that you're asking that because we've been hurt.
Yeah.
We've been hurt. We don't want to be hurt again. So we felt duped, felt stupid. We don't want to be duped and stupid again. I'm not saying you were duped or stupid, but it feels that way. It feels that way. So let's talk about how do we get confident that we know that we're not being hurt again? How do you know that? How do you know, for example, that somebody's not manipulating you?
The biggest thing, the first step is to really forgive yourself for that first hurt or for the hurt that you've had. Really forgive yourself and know that that wasn't you. That was you being brainwashed. So once we get past that, you can start to begin to trust yourself again. And trust comes with those 3 aspects of healing that, in my opinion, are some of the most important aspects, which is the community, knowing you weren't alone, knowing that you have a group of people that get it, that understand what you went through. And then also the knowledge, understanding what these tactics are and what narcissists like to do in order for you to be hypnotized by them, brainwashed by them. And then having that form of self-love, self-care again, and really focusing and putting yourself back in the driver's seat. Yeah. Being able to have that encouragement for yourself, that motivation, and just being able to be confident and trust yourself again. That would be the first thing. And then understanding the red flags. Right. Knowing what to, we first said at the beginning, if you're not feeling comfortable, it's probably toxic. Right. Understanding what is toxic.
Yeah, I use myself as a tool. I've learned how narcissists make me feel. I often feel like I want to make them like me. I have a big need to sort of put on a good face and show off myself in a good light. Or I feel super insecure, like suddenly I'm aware of everything that's wrong with me, like the fact that whether or not something's showing, or maybe I've pinned something, I'm suddenly aware of all the flaws around me. Though when I feel triggered like that, then I know I'm probably sitting in the presence of a narcissist, because they're activating this insecurity or this need
to impress them,
need to impress
them.
Yeah, exactly. There's a question on how to find my club, my private group. It's called Toxic Free Relationship Club. There is a link in my bio that leads right to it. It is a premium club, so there's a paid component. It's a great group. I've got a growing group. It's small, but wow, what a wonderful, sweet, supportive community is happening in there. So look for Toxic Free Relationship Club. Somebody else asked, there was a couple questions. Oh, do they know that they're hurting us?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I know people want to know that a lot. Do they? Sort of not. I think it's a yes and no answer, and I'd love to hear what you think, Ro. I think they know, because why deceive? Why lie and cover up? Or gaslight. The gaslighting is all about making you feel crazy instead of you knowing the truth. So why do that? That in the way that they know it's wrong and they're doing something that's hurtful. But on the other hand, I think there's a level of them that is unaware of the depth of sadisticness and intentionality. I think that part is so shameful, so antisocial, that they keep that even hidden from themselves. So to me, it's a yes/no answer. What do you think?
I think it's a yes/no as well. But in terms of, they place such double standards.
Yeah.
So if someone were to do that to them, first, I don't even know if they would be aware that it's happening, and two, they know that they're doing something because they like the deception. I believe that most narcissists like the conquest, and they like getting away with something that they know is wrong. So do they think it's wrong? Yeah, because why would they get off on it, right? They kind of enjoy that. But if it were happening to them, it would be the biggest betrayal on your end.
Oh, you
right?
know not to do that.
You would never do that. So they know what they're doing is hurtful. But if you're hurting them in that, you'd never hear the end of it. But because of that double standard, they're so entitled that everything they do, they don't play by their own rules.
No.
So do I think they're doing something that they know that they're doing something hurtful? Yes. Do they care? No.
Well, they don't have a conscience. You have to have a conscience to
you
care.
You have to care, yeah. You don't care.
That means they're not empathic. Yeah, they don't have remorse. In fact, their brain imaging actually shows changes. They don't have the same brain imaging that you would have. That area in your brain that shows up that you're feeling bad about what you did, that's underactive. It doesn't light up to the same degree in their brains. They don't feel the same level of distress by bad behavior. So how do you then change if you're not bothered by it? Because pain is what motivates us to be different. It has to hurt us. A hot stove, we pull our hand off because it's burning our hand. When you have to have pain receptors to feel the burn. That's what's so dangerous, that those born without pain receptors, if they don't know to remove their hand from the stove,
they'll burn their hand.
Well, narcissists have the same problem. They have a lack of pain receptors when it comes to things that should hurt, that are shameful or bad or remorseful or cause guilt. They don't feel those things as well, and then as a result, they don't make the same kind of reaction. They don't protect themselves or us from that behavior.
If they can't empathize with your pain, then they don't care that they're creating that pain.
Yes, and some of them, someone just asked, do they feel pleasure? Yeah, some of them actually, because in their mind, if you think about this, if they're run by jealousy and they think life's unfair, and they're unhappy about and by the way, they're not for you, you're also competition, because they're jealous of everyone in the world, and they think you've got an unfair advantage in whatever good things are happening instead of seeing it as part of you and them together. They don't see that as happening to them, they just see it happening to you. Then they were happy when they can take you down and they see you hurt, then they feel like she deserves it. He deserved that. They didn't earn that good thing, or she shouldn't have had that, whatever it is. They want you hurt and bad off as bad as they feel. So yes, they do take pleasure. There is a sadistic element to this, definitely.
A smirk on their face every time they hurt me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And somebody mentioned that they really would like a copy of my book, but they're being financially abused. If that's your case, please DM me over on Instagram. Let me know that. I don't mind giving my book away to those who really need it, want it, and can't afford it. So just DM me over on Instagram. Let me know your situation, okay?
That's nice of you.
Yeah. One more question is another good question coming through. There's so many good questions.
I'm looking.
Yeah, me too. Somebody wants to know, I saw back, let's take this one as a good last one. How does therapy help a narcissist if they can't change? Well, it teaches them new tools, like it teaches them how to check themselves, and it confronts them and forces them to really look at themselves in new ways. Therapy for them does not look like therapy for you and I. It's not the same. It's a little actually more in your face. It's a little rougher. In fact, you probably would find it offensive, but they need it. They need to have someone challenge them and take them on. They have to have a therapist who really knows how to break through the bullshit they're feeding them, to see the manipulation, not be manipulatable. You need to have a therapist who's really strong in themselves, doesn't need their admiration, won't be love bombed by them. By the way, they try. They come into therapy and they've tried. I've had them in therapy. So you really need a therapist that sort of sees through all that crap and calls them out on it and forces them to take a look at behaving differently and challenges them on why they're not behaving differently.
I think it takes a level too of
Yeah.
practicing vulnerability, I believe,
Yeah.
as well, that, you know, most narcissists don't want to get to that space.
Yeah.
And getting in that space is going to be really harsh for them.
Right, right. My book's name is Love You More, The Harrowing Tale of Lies, Sex Addiction, and Double Cross. And my Instagram handle is the same as here. My handle here is the same everywhere. Kerry McAvoy, PhD. That's how you find me.
Anyone on my page who does want a copy of the book can go in the link in my bio under my favorite books. Right underneath is Kerry's book.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, this has been
Awesome.
wonderful.
Yeah, I love that.
Our trip is coming to an end. We're winding it up, but I know we'll see her again.
I know,
And
I know.
those of you who said you're in Canada, we're hoping to do a meet and greet. We're going to do a Canadian, and I will make sure I come.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I come.
Yeah, you'll see us again.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Love you so much. You take care. Have
Let's
a good
stay
rest of the
narc-free.
week.
Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.